First of all, don't be afraid of taking small steps. It depends on everyone, not only the big companies, the small, the medium companies, all the consumers. Everybody can do something. Everybody has to take the responsibility, because only if we are all aware of this huge problem, we keep our world for the next generations lovable and livable.
Hello everyone, I'm Sergey Petrov, founder of Polinity and a passionate beekeeper. Today in our digital beehive we have a very distinguished guest, Mr. Stefan Hip. He's the CEO of HiPP, the leading organic baby food company, and comes from a very long line of organic farmers. His family actually pioneered organic farming in Germany about 60 years ago. And we are welcoming you to join us as we delve into a conversation about organic farming, about sustainable practices, and the sweet journey of nurturing both bees and businesses. So join us for a conversation that is bound to leave you buzzing and inspired. Let's get started. So, hello, Mr. Hip. Thank you very much for taking the time to meet with us. As a sustainable company that has sustainability in its DNA, actually, we are quite keen on hearing your thoughts about the current situation of bees and biodiversity. So thank you. And can we start with the questions?
Yes, please. Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure talking to you. And maybe as an introduction, which could be interesting, is also that our company has a long relation to the bees. Since my forefathers were Lebzelters were processing the products of the bees. So the wax they processed for candles, and the honey for a kind of a gingerbread. And this is something my family has been involved for more than 300 years.
Oh, wow. So generations.
Yes.
Well, we are the new guys in this, and we are trying to create the new paradigm of innovation in it. And that's why we need to understand where you come from. So from your standpoint, how do you see the current situation of pollinators like bees?
Very critical, actually, very critical. If you look to the last decades, we really could monitor a strong decline of the pollination population, especially when it comes to the bees.
Mm-hmm.
And if we look to the last 30 years, monitoring the amount of flying insects, that has decreased, as an example, in Germany, but in most of the other European countries as well, by more than 70%.
Yeah.
And this is something which scares me very much, because if you look to the food production, their agricultural production, to the plants, they are dependent, most of them, of the pollination of flying insects and especially of the bees. So as an example, 40% of the cherries without pollination we would not have. Almonds, 90%. And if you look to most of the vegetables, it would be probably be zero. And this is one of the reasons why we have to take much more care on the population of the bees and all the insects.
Yes. People don't really think about stuff like onions being pollinated by bees, but it's very important to share that knowledge. So HiPP as a company is renowned for its commitment to organic farming, for example, and sustainability, of course. And how does this commitment intersect with the well-being of pollinators like the bees?
One of the big problems nowadays we have is, of course, the pollution of our environment. It's not the same it has been 50, 60 years ago. And of course, we have the industry, but one of the main issues, unfortunately, still is the conventional farming. With all the agrochemicals we have, the insects, and especially the bees, are especially sensitive about this. They are harmed, they die, they cannot survive. And this is also one of the reasons why I personally believe organic farming is so essential for our future, because organic farming is without any chemicals and gives the ideal circumstances for all biodiversity. And one of that part, of course, are the insects. And if you watch conventional farms and organic farms, we can see a much higher amount of insects on the organic farms farmed without any chemicals.
And could you share some specific examples of how HiPP organic farming practices contribute to creating this kind of bee-friendly environment?
Yes, we as HiPP, as an example, we have a very close relation to our farmers. We also advise them and we give them targets when it comes to biodiversity. We tell them what to do to increase the amount of biodiversity. So as an example, farmers for HiPP, they have to store blossoming stripes with a lot of flowers. We have intercrops, again with a lot of flowers, a lot of clover, which is the ideal living environment for all those animals in biodiversity and insects. And finally, also a big thing is planting hedges. So HiPP farmers, they get a lot of advice for us and they follow us. And this is a very good example. And I believe a lot of others should do the same and follow.
It does seem like HiPP's influence goes well beyond products. Yeah, it's really about inspiring positive change. So do you go the extra mile and actually try to engage with customers and stakeholders in raising awareness about bee conservation?
Absolutely, absolutely. We started 3 years ago a campaign. HiPP goes beyond organic because we believe only organic is not enough. We have to do more. And one thing is that we promote the importance, we communicate the importance of the bees. We do this online with influencers and many, many other communication methods, but also at the point of sale in the markets. As an example, we give little packets of seedlings for blossoming, for flowers, what the consumers can plant in the garden or even on the balcony to attract bees and improve this.
That's a great initiative. And in the context of biodiversity, what do you consider to be the most significant challenges that businesses like HiPP, for example, face today? And can you give some tips on how are you effectively navigating around them?
Personally, I believe the two biggest challenges we have for the future, of course, one thing is the climate change, but the other thing is definitely the loss of biodiversity. And if you look to the next decade, we are confronted with the loss of more than 1 million species of animals and plants. This is a very, very big danger. And also another thing is, of course, if we lose the biodiversity, farming will become much more under pressure because biodiversity is also important for a successful farming, for stable yields. And if we fight against the biodiversity, the yields will go down, and sooner or later we will run into huge problems getting enough food for the population of the world.
That is true, truly visionary. And as a leading figure in the organic industry, do you have any specific advice that you can give to businesses that are seeking to integrate sustainable practices and biodiversity conservation as its core value?
Yes. First of all, don't be afraid of taking small steps. Of course, bigger ones can be bigger steps, but finally it depends on everyone. Not only the big companies, the small, the medium companies, also the consumers. Everybody can do something. Everybody has to take the responsibility, because only if we are all aware of this huge problem, we keep our world for the next generations lovable and livable. So please take it serious and do whatever you can, even in the small scale.
Well, thank you very much for doing it on your scale, because the world really needs advocates of biodiversity and sustainability like yourself. And we're going to take your advice, and we're not going to only use it, but also we're going to try and spread awareness about your message, because caring for sustainability and biodiversity truly is caring for the food of our future generations. And we thank HiPP for being an example, an industry example in that.
Thank you very much. It is important to promote it and spread it out in the world. Thank you.
Thank you.